Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Solutions podcast. Today we will be having Ant Finch with us. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. I will ask him his correct pronunciation when he comes in. But I want to talk about how he got started in Amazon and how his journey has been. Hi,
Hi, great to meet you.
great to meet you too. So, can you introduce yourself? Yeah, that would be the first one.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Ant Finch. I'm founder of Vendor Rocket, and Vendor Rocket is an Amazon consultancy specializing on vendor accounts. Um, Probably helps if I give you a little bit of a background on me as to
Sure,
why
sure, sure. Yeah.
I've got to this point. So for the last 17 years, I've been in the e-commerce space. So 14 years ago, or 17 years ago, I joined a branded office products manufacturer that was selling products globally across retail, wholesale, contract stationers, etc. And uh, I dealt with many kind of large retail accounts from Asda, Walmart, all the way through to retailers in the UK and big wholesalers. And then in around 2011, I was asked to look after an online e-tailer, as we called it back then, called
Yeah.
Amazon. And the mission was very simple. We didn't really know how Amazon worked. We'd been using it as a uh, excess stock clearance route to market. And basically, my role was to try and understand how Amazon worked, and then find a way to make it grow profitably. And that was back in 2010, 2011. Since then, it's gone on and grown, and it's massive for many markets and many categories. And then, so I built a team up that was covering Amazon globally across 9 marketplaces across Europe and into the US, 9,000 ASINs, and I in-housed everything. So I
Nice.
refused to pay for someone to do something that I didn't know how to do it myself. So I was in the early stages of AMS and AMG, it was called at the time, which is now DSP. So I've been very hands-on with Amazon for most of my career. And then 2 years ago, I was approached with an opportunity to come and help build and develop an Amazon advertising advanced partner. And I thought, well, that sounds interesting to go
Yeah.
agency side, having
Nice.
spent my
Yeah.
whole career client side. And yeah, so I did that for just over a year and a half, and then I kind of I think when you start to see Amazon and you see where the focus is and you see the opportunities, I what I really learned about myself is that I like helping other people be successful on Amazon. I feel myself that I have been successful on Amazon, and I've gone through the challenges, and some of it's worked and some of it hasn't. And I found through the agency side that I took a lot of personal enjoyment from helping others navigate Amazon. So it felt very natural to go out on my own as a consultant with Vendor Rocket, and Vendor particularly because personally I feel that vendors are not supported enough in the market. There's a
Yeah.
lot of focus on the seller side,
Yeah.
but on the vendor side, when you operate within a big brand and you have a vendor central relationship,
Yeah.
you're normally just put into a position and told, go and grow Amazon, and you go, I have no idea how to grow Amazon. So I wish there was someone like me available for me to talk to when I first started out on Amazon, because it would have just made my life much easier.
Yeah.
So that's a bit about me and a bit of how I've got to where I am today.
Awesome. Awesome. So back in 2010, so this is very interesting. That's why I asked you to introduce because back in 2010 and 2011, you are, I guess, one of few people who actually saw the actual worth of newspaper advertising. Then that moved into the television side, yeah, television side, and then that moved into kind of digital space, and now it's it's everywhere. Now it's TikTok. Yeah, I was yeah. So
Yeah,
It's a massive, yeah, it's a massive change. So how do you like, I guess after every 3 years you saw some new thing coming up, and yeah, stuff like that.
well, it was. I mean, with Amazon and within the e-commerce space, it felt like, when I reflect back on it now, it felt like every week there was something new happening, and very early on, you're just going, I'm just going to sell as much stock in as I
Yeah,
can, and then I remember Amazon giving me £750 free credit to run my first AMS advertising
nice,
campaigns.
nice, nice.
And so you're going, oh, this is strange, because normally I was used to going, I'm going to sell the product into the retailer,
Yeah,
and then they do what they want to do with it. Whereas with Amazon, it was that really steep learning curve of going, okay, it's easy to get products on there, but
yeah,
it's not so easy getting them to sell. So that was a constant journey from content. What content works to drive click through rate, what keywords to use, what price point to be at, what pack size to be at, and then you've got the impact of the wider pricing distribution on the
yeah,
market. And how that comes back into the Amazon ecosystem. So it kind of back kind of 10-15 years ago, you were kind of you weren't aware of everything that was going on
yeah,
around you, how it was influencing Amazon. Whereas now, you change an image on Amazon and everyone knows about it across all
yeah,
customer bases. So it's yeah, I think those changes and that kind of that progression. I mean, it's just in line with how consumers are shopping and their demands. They want stuff next day. They want more content. They want more kind of trust and understanding from the brand perspective. And I think particularly e-commerce is very easy to do that because it's within the brand's control. Whereas if you're going into a traditional brick and mortar, you're one brand in and amongst many.
yep,
So you kind of get lost in that perspective. So yeah, it's even now it's a continuous challenge. There's
yeah.
always something new. There's always something to learn, and that's what I love about it. I mean, it's just, what a fantastic place to be in.
Yeah. So when I started my advertising journey, so basically I started from content writing to, and then moved to social media and to advertising. And I remember in 2015 when I was a content writer, people used to say, "Oh, why would we, pay for, people to show ads on mobile?" So I remember, people used to have genuine fights about it, like, why would I show my ads to mobile, and stuff like that. And now we are here that 90% advertisement is done on mobile, and the sales are just anonymous. And yeah, and also the supply chain has moved a lot, especially after COVID as well. So yeah, and there has been a huge shift in that sense as well. So how do you see the market economics after COVID, like especially on the supply chain side, that yeah.
Yeah, it's pre-pandemic, Amazon was growing 25,
Yeah,
30%. So everything actually was pretty good. It was on a good march, good upward trend, and pretty much across most categories. The pandemic hit, and it just supercharged everything. And
yep,
and and the brands that were already there, they were really benefiting. The brands who had to quickly get on board, they're the ones who are going, oh, this is great, this is straightforward, because I'm just growing and I don't really have
yeah,
to do too much. The last couple of years have been interesting because the wind has come out of people's sails. So, the detail is more important, the advertising strategy, the pricing strategy, your MPD strategy, and how you're using all of those levers to be able to drive your Amazon business forward now needs to be much more considered. On the supply chain side, it's I mean, I think Amazon gives some interesting solutions on the supply chain side. So you've got Pix, you've got Vendor Flex, obviously you've got the FBA and the FBM services which are available. But I think the biggest challenge really, and what's happened is, I think for many years on the operational side, the chargebacks that you were getting on the vendor side, the discrepancies that you see on the seller side. I think for many that was seen as a bit of a cost of doing business with Amazon. So there was massive holes in the P&L of just lost investment and lost
Yeah.
stock, and I think that's when I think about supply chain and the operational side of Amazon, I think that now becomes a very critical part for businesses, particularly on the vendor side, because you can no longer afford to bury your head in the sand over stock that's been lost or chargebacks that you don't disagree with, or actually is within your control to be able to fix. I think when I step back and look at it from an operational perspective, my biggest learning is particularly on the vendor side when you engage with Amazon, their operational requirements is very different to all of the other customers that you will deal with. So you're not only trying to drive it on the front end, but you're trying to make sure you align with Amazon's requirements on the back end. And if you're not used to that, that can feel really clunky
Yeah.
and slow and kind of expensive, and maybe then you go, oh, is it worthwhile doing it? So I think it's that operational part or the supply chain part now is making sure that your products are created and they're absolutely optimized to
Yeah.
go through Amazon as seamlessly as possible. And yes, it will take investment to get them there, but once you've done it, it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very interesting point. So I come from the seller side, so mostly my people are when they are doing good on Amazon, and then they want to move to the Shopify, and they want to build their brands properly. So from my side, when they ask me, how will Shopify work, or how will my own personal warehousing work, I tell them it's very simple. But when you talk about Amazon only, there is just heaps of requirement, and all the stuff that you have to take care of and stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, for Amazon, it's the problems are in the start. But
Yep,
for the Shopify and other stuff, until it reaches the customer's hand, you are still in problem. Yeah. So yeah, these kind of
absolutely.
things become very complicated. So and I just remembered one thing. So you are from UK, right?
I
You're
am.
in the UK.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the charges that have incurred for Amazon? Like Amazon has started asking for VAT since 2021. So, yeah,
Asking for the what? Sorry, I missed that bit.
VAT, the taxes. I guess they have started the taxing. Yeah.
The additional fees, and I mean, yeah, look, it's as big as Amazon get, they're not immune to changes in cost and inflation within the UK market. Amazon ultimately have to look after their bottom line as well as any other
Yep.
business. So, yes, it's painful when it happens, but any changes in price, regardless if you're going to buy milk or you're popping down the shop to buy
Yeah.
some food, it's tough when you see some of those inflationary costs coming through. So Amazon are demonstrating consistently that they're not immune to that. And Amazon are extremely margin focused at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So everything will be about making sure that operationally they are profitable. It will be a key focus for them. Certainly, it has been for this year, and I expect for next year and the year after as well.
Yeah. So I do have one question that that piques my interest is, after a seller has grown on on in UK market, what would you suggest them to either go for the European market or go to US market, or where whereabout, like especially on the Amazon side?
Yeah, so I think the natural kind of escalation and expansion of a brand's footprint is to go over into the European market. Amazon make that fairly seamless for you,
Yeah.
both from an operational and a listing perspective. So I think certainly moving over into that EU marketplace, and a lot of it will. depend on your brand. So if you have a brand that you believe is really going to resonate in the US market, actually getting product into the US and setting up some kind of 3PL or own way to service Amazon from an FBA perspective or FBM perspective is certainly on the cards. But I would say if you are considering that expansion, look at the European market, look at places like Germany and France and maybe Spain, and explore the products there. And if you start to get some traction on certain ASINs, that will give you the confidence that the process works, and then you consider where you go with the US.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That since Brexit, how much has the distribution changed? Yeah,
Well,
going from UK to, yeah,
I
products
mean,
going from UK to Europe. Yeah,
it's a little more complex. There's a bit more paperwork to do, but it's the process. As long as you kind of prepped for those changes, you were ready for any change in process or regulation. So not massive, not from my perspective, but I have heard from brands who weren't ready. They hadn't done the work to be able to prep those routes into the different markets, and that's been a bit of a challenge. But I think I think we were all given enough notice it was happening
yeah.
and support to push that through.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that people have gotten it the straight now, because I still see some of the brands struggling to understand how European market versus UK market works. It's a very different market as well. If
Yeah,
as
absolutely. I think the biggest challenge is there. It's just taking the content and just doing a Google translate
yeah,
into new content. You really need to look at the cultural subtleties in the text and how the language is used to be able to make sure you've got the right keywords. So we would always talk about transcreating the content. So you take
yep,
the UK content and you make it really relevant for that localized market. If you can, use native speakers, and so you really pick up those subtle changes from the language, so that you can feed that into your keyword. I think AI is an interesting role to play
yeah,
in base level content. I think that's going to make everything a bit more efficient, but I don't think it's ever going to take away from having that kind of human touch at certain points to
yeah,
check it and make sure that the content doesn't feel it, make sure it doesn't feel too polished. I think it
yeah,
has to
yeah.
feel a bit more
That's a
approachable.
good one. That's a good one. Too polished. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it still needs to read like it's been written by someone, and so
Yeah.
people can feel familiar with it. And I think there's an element that will always be required.
Yes, yes. Especially now on LinkedIn, you can always tell, the guy who is using AI to, reply to your comments. But yeah, the human touch is very important, and that's why we comment and do stuff like that, because so that we can share our own thoughts. If we start, doing the other things, then because if we let AI do the creative things for us, then that loses all the meaning, I guess. But yeah, and also the AI. Have you read about the AI getting dumber? Like it gives more errors now as previous. Yeah.
I haven't, but is that intentionally or is that as it's learning?
I think what happened was that the more people gave more general questions, so it learned from that, and it started
Oh,
using less resources. Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant.
So yeah, and what's your personal favorite marketplace after UK? Because UK is a really great marketplace, but if you look at the scaling, yeah, you did take names of some marketplaces, but yeah, what's your personal favorite one on Amazon and off Amazon? Yeah,
Okay, my personal favorite marketplace is on Amazon and off Amazon. So in terms of Amazon, I really like the German marketplace. I really German content and German imagery, and it's all very clean and very practical,
yeah,
and it's I think that's great. And there's a massive opportunity for brands in the German marketplace. It's huge. Off Amazon, I'm Actually, I've been doing a bit of shopping around on eBay. I think eBay is a
Nice.
really interesting marketplace for brands. I've always struggled to get eBay to work from a brand perspective, purely because of I think I was so entrenched in how Amazon worked, but the eBay proposition is a really interesting one, and that
Yeah.
kind of marketplace role, and you see all of the different listings, and the
Yeah.
principles are the same. But I think eBay's a really interesting marketplace, but it's not for every brand. But I think there's definitely some evolution to happen there.
Yeah, and Amazon is interesting because they have, they are so distinct. Like Amazon is Amazon. Even in UAE where I live, Amazon is Amazon. Although there are three more, competitors. Noon there is, and there are some other as well. But yeah, Amazon, it just takes the cake. It's very different, distinct. Yeah,
It all stems back from the customer comes first. So regardless of
yeah,
where you are in the world, what time it is when you engage in Amazon, it's absolutely key that you know what you're going to get, both from a user experience, from how you shop it, from how you add it to your basket, to how you pay for it. It's I mean, I can sit here and I can order products in the US and I can get them shipped over to me. I mean, it's just very easy.
yeah.
And I think Amazon will never lose that because that's part of their DNA for that great customer experience. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's one of their USPs really. It's just very easy to engage with regardless of country or time or any of those things. So I think that's a real benefit.
So, what would be the biggest tip from you to vendors? Vendors only, like, yeah, vendors who are starting out on Amazon, or who are looking to, start the Amazon. Yeah,
Okay. So my biggest tip would be, don't just blindly go into it. Okay, don't just go, "Oh, I'm just going to list some products because I can." Look and consider what products you want to launch. Look at the wider distribution into the market, and then understand what success looks like for those products over a 3, 6, and 9 month period. Okay,
yeah,
and measure it and really understand what those key metrics are that support those products. So having that kind of objective and that strategy and the plan that can help you deliver those objectives is absolutely key, because it's very easy to get swept up in Amazon and go, I'm just going to load everything. And
yeah,
and when you do that, you will load complexity and then it won't be 100% clean. And then you'll spend months tidying up the bits that
yeah,
you will have got wrong when you loaded it up in a rush to get everything on there. So take your time, be considered in the product, have an objective, and have a plan of how you're going to deliver it, and keep measuring it. That for me, if someone said to me, "We've got a vendor invitation, what do you recommend we do?" That would be my first point.
yeah,
Otherwise, just be ready
yeah.
to spend a
Be
lot of
ready for
time
anything. Yeah.
cleaning it up in the background.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears into a bit casual conversation, and then we are gonna come back to the Amazon conversation again. So, Mike, it actually stems from your words that you like the German marketplace. So, but I think they are a bit more complex, because whenever I try to submit the invoice or something like that, they usually reject the invoice as well. So this has happened to me as a small seller, that and I have to run courses around them. But yeah, Germans are very strict in everything. But yeah, I heard that the German timeliness, they are very on time and everything, but their own trains that were supposed to be on time, they were delayed by their, yeah, so stuff like that.
Good.
So, what do you think about the German marketplace, Germans as people, and how they are growing in terms of Amazon? Because what personally I have seen is there are a lot of course selling going on in German marketplace, but I think it's on in the whole Europe. Yeah,
Yeah, it's as I said before, I think the way in which you communicate your product, it feels like you need to be more or much more practical and highlight the features, benefits, and advantages of your products in a much clearer way. I think that's really, really key. The German marketplace. If I take back to school as for example, so back to school is a massive seasonal campaign for
Yeah.
many vendors, particularly in the
Yeah.
office product space. So if you think about back to school in the UK, Scotland will go back to school first, and then the
Yeah.
UK go back to school a couple of weeks later or a week later. So you get almost a small peak, and then you get the big peak.
Yeah.
Whereas in Germany, it's all done by regions. So different regions go back at different times. And because Germany is so big, it's vast.
Yeah.
And different regions have different requirements around notebooks and office products. So you have to have a much more complex campaign in what is already a big seasonal campaign
Yeah.
that you need to be part of. So it's I think yes, there is structure, yes, there is additional complexity, but it's a huge marketplace, and if you can crack the German market with your Amazon listings and your
Yeah.
content and the right product, then it could easily be in line with the UK or even bigger than the UK performance.
Yeah, we do see a lot of pickup, especially for Prime Day. I saw a lot of pickup in our German marketplace.
Yep.
UK was also second best. Canada this time performed didn't well, but we are usually in US marketplace, so that did a lot well. So yeah, but when it comes, let's just talk about Prime Day for a second. That when it comes to Prime Day, what do you usually suggest to your people? Because previously we had a strategy of do as much as revenue as possible, but this time for this Prime Day what we did was we focused more on profitability. So we did sell lesser units than before, but yeah, we had more profits this time. So how do you take that, especially from the
Yeah.
vendor perspective?
Yeah, so personally, I'm a big fan of promotions, whether it's lightning deals, deal of the day, price drop, best deal, visibility.
Yeah.
I think that's an opportunity to influence sales in the short term. As long as you budget for it and you know you're going to do it, actually you can manage it within your P&L. The but the main reason for promoting, not just in seasonal campaigns but outside of seasonal campaigns, is because it helps you drive more visibility. It helps you drive an improvement in your conversion rate, unless your traffic really spikes. But you are also influencing your bestseller rank, and actually, every time you're promoting, you're looking to try and improve your organic visibility post
Yeah.
promotion.
Yeah.
It's that, if I'm selling 100 a day, 100 a week pre Prime Day, and then over Prime Day I sell 500, but
Yeah.
then after Prime Day, when I turn the discounts off, I start selling 150 a week.
Yeah.
That for me is a win, because I'm then
Yeah.
selling 50% more per week at my full margin. So
Yeah.
I think there's I think promotions are a great vehicle for kind of energizing products, and I'm a big fan, particularly on high margin lines, of high lowing the price to make sure
Yeah.
you keep that engagement. Whereas you might underpin them with everyday low price products that
Yeah.
you don't promote, but they're very consistent. But also, I think as brands, you've got to remember that if you don't promote, you're leaving that space for your competitors.
Yeah.
So
That's
do
right.
you want your competitors to take that volume and that sale, or do you want to be in there to take it and make sure that you're keeping your product relevant and present in the market? Now, there'll be loads of different views on this, and it will come
Yeah.
back to what's the objective of the overriding for the year? What's the
Yeah.
objective for the campaign? And if the objective is to deliver a margin number or a margin percentage, actually that might mean you're a bit more considered in your promotional activation. Whereas if you're balancing out margin and top level turnover growth, actually these promotional campaigns are great vehicles to help
Yeah.
you do it. And also, I'm a big fan of you should really promote the products that are already working really hard, because you're just going to give them a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
Whereas trying to advertise a product that's somewhere deep on page 3 or 4 that
Yeah.
never going to see the light of day is
Yeah.
probably not a good uh, uh, use of your investment.
Yeah, that's very true. And I remember that in July Prime Day we had a very slow product. So that brand is a very slow brand right now, because the products are very doing very slowly. But what happened was we did the Prime Day rightly. So it started getting the exactly like we were doing 50 sales a day, and then we started seeing 80 sales a day, and then it moved to 100 sales a day, and then we did that price drop and price increase thing, and we were riding that wave till now, and now fingers crossed, what results we see tomorrow. Yeah, so but yeah, it was really great. And yeah, it's a very good promotional vehicle that it helps you keep the things going on. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's and again, like I said, it does come back to whether you're looking to look after your margin, or if you're trying to drive top level growth and you're not too worried about your margin. It will depend on what that objective is and how you want to do it. But promotions for me have always been a really good commercial lever for
Yeah,
influencing sales in the short term and medium term. So yeah, I often get to this like Prime Day and Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and go, well, should we not run any promotions? Should we pull back? But
yeah,
I just go, well, why would I not want to promote when I've got more people coming in?
yeah,
If there's more people on site and there's more footfall, why would I
yeah,
not want to show as many people as possible and convert as many people as possible on my products? So yeah, it's that. It feels like the age old question of, well, there's going to be people there, so don't bother promoting.
yeah.
But or so yeah, I don't think there's a one size fits all approach there for everyone. I think you have to
Yeah.
take a considered view.
Yeah, usually my LinkedIn is filled with, as soon as the October started, everyone was like, the Prime Day is coming and I am not advertising on it. And I wanted to fight with them, but then I was like, leave them alone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that everyone will have their own experiences.
Yeah.
It'll be different category by category. Even now when there's some products that we may promote or we recommend are promoted and they don't perform, and then others do. And I
Yeah.
think it's a case of, with Amazon, you're constantly testing and learning and exploring and understanding what depth of discount attracts what level of conversion rate, what keywords are the right keywords. I think that's another fascinating part of
Yeah.
promotions and these seasonal
Yeah.
campaigns is, changing your content and making it more seasonal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that for me is just a really well thought out plan of action,
Yeah.
and recognizes that Amazon is constantly evolving and
Yeah.
changing in line with how consumers are shopping. So I think there's a lot of different things to look at. If you are sitting there going, I don't want to drop the price, you can
Yeah.
do different things. But yeah, I think it's everyone will have different opinions on this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do have one question. It's a very long question, but yeah, I wanted to ask you this. How do you see the the aggregators and the whole scenario of aggregators? When the COVID started, we saw a lot of new aggregators coming into the market, and now it's on in the at the point where they are all consolidating, or they are merging together, and some are even thinking about filing bankruptcy as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's when you see the boom, and I read something. It was saying like there was 80 aggregators in
yeah,
the whole of the world that were doing this stuff, and you just go, well, it's just too many. It's
yeah,
too many. So you'll have natural consolidation, and you'll end up with 20, maybe 30, maybe less that are having a huge chunk of that business, and that will become a bit more stable. I think there's always going to be a bit of a need for an aggregator because they will pick up these brands, and as people want to sell their business and move it on, I think that will be a kind of, I think that's required. But yeah, for sure, it's not sustainable. It can't be. I mean, to run a brand and a business on Amazon takes
yeah,
a lot of time, investment in stock, in people, and if you've got multiple brands and you're trying to get multiple brands under one person to be able to manage
yeah,
those as well as they were being managed, I mean, you can kind of go, well, it cannot be sustainable because of the level of detail and granularity you need to get into on Amazon to be
yeah,
able to drive success, particularly now. I mean, it's easy to grow during the
yeah,
pandemic, which we've already said, because there was loads of people going online.
yeah,
So all you had to do is just make sure your products were there when you were going to sell.
yeah,
Whereas it's much more competitive now. Amazon will always remain price sensitive, and the low price product will always rise to the top of the search terms.
yeah,
So it becomes more time consuming, less profitable, and more complex.
yeah.
And that's always going to present a challenge when you've got multiple brands that you're responsible for.
Yes, yes, that's right. And yeah, I did look into some of the aggregators. So yeah, it was a very nasty picture, especially on the supply chain side. They didn't understand the, especially in 2022. I read about, they got so much overstock that they had to ride it out till quarter two. In quarter four, they had so much stock that they had to take it until quarter two of next year. So yeah, and these kind of disasters obviously happen when you are not, I guess, connected to the product. There does although selling on Amazon is very easy, but understanding the product and understanding the category, because category in itself, and then there is subcategory in itself, that that changes a lot, and it kind of gets disastrous as well, especially for us. What happened was we had a product that performed really bad in the first Prime Day, in July Prime Day. And what happened was, as soon as October started, it the category sales grew by 3x. So a brand that was doing 30 units a day started doing 90 units a day. And then all of the sudden we had fire alarms going off, because we have Prime Day going on, and then we need some stock. So we were praying to God that please let us not be out of stock on Prime Day. And thankfully that has gone. So yeah, now it will be smooth sailing from now on, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's. I mean, if I look on the vendor side, Amazon were carrying a lot of stock as they come out of the pandemic on from vendor accounts. They're obviously carrying lots of stock from resellers and FBA that sellers had put into their DCs. And if you look last year, I don't recall talking to a brand or a vendor who wasn't sitting on loads of stock at Amazon. And what that means is Amazon is ordering less. So
yeah,
so you've got your sales out are really strong,
yeah,
and but your sales in are almost nothing. Whilst Amazon churn through that stock, which puts massive pressure on your P&L. So
yeah,
many brands went through last year going, I've now got an underperforming year, but from a sales out perspective, it was actually pretty good. It was either flat or small increase. So, and then you look at this year, some of it's still hanging around. We're
yeah,
largely over it now.
yeah,
We're getting back to a bit more normality of the order frequency, but particularly in Q1, I think it's probably across most categories. Amazon order a load of stock at the end of Q3 to get them through Q4, and then they don't sell it through until Q1, and that presents some challenges. So I
yeah,
think the more you go through those cycles, the more you kind of get to
yeah,
plan for it and account for it in your own P&L. But I think the pandemic kind of it made that process a bit trickier for many. But you learn and move on and go, okay, yeah, that was painful, but we understand why and how we're going to manage it differently moving forward.
yeah. And now I have a personal question for you. And the question is, what will be the product that, if you had to launch a product, what will be that, and what category would it be?
Oh God, that's a good question. If I had a product and I wanted to launch a product, um, I keep reading, and I've seen some of the performance when I look through the various tools on Amazon, particularly within the healthcare category. That
Yeah,
category is really growing,
yeah,
and starting to really develop not only for entry level brands but also for more premium brands as well. So I think that's a really interesting category to go into. I'm really intrigued by Amazon's approach on the grocery market, particularly in
Yeah,
the UK, with partnerships around with I think it was Waitrose that's potentially on the cards. They've got Iceland, Morrison's. So
yeah,
Amazon are really focused on that grocery channel, and I don't think yet that there are many pure grocery brands that are trading with people like Tesco and Asda and Sainsbury's that have made that switch into e-commerce in a seamless
yeah,
way, particularly on
yeah.
Amazon. So I think that's a massive growth area because Amazon are now really starting to push it. I read earlier on today that they're now advertising their basic food offering on the tubes. So
Nice.
you can. Amazon are really serious about it. I think they're going to start to really push harder on this in 2024, and I think the grocery channel will be an interesting channel to be part of. I mean, not to say that I'm going to go and launch a food product because I would not know where to start, but I think it's definitely an interesting one to be involved in.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point, and especially in UAE, I have seen that the grocery market is very e-commerce grocery market is very booming as well. So
Yep.
yeah, even my mom loves to do it online. So yeah, every day it's happening. So yeah, it's
No,
really interesting.
absolutely.
And in healthcare, it's the thing is yeah, healthcare is interesting because first of all you have a lot of the paperwork that you need to do. So you being from vendor side, you love paperwork, I guess. But us sellers who we are afraid of paperwork. So yeah, we don't like doing that. But yeah, healthcare stuff, like a bit of casual and healthcare, if you combine that, there is a lot of market there as well. And I think you may have heard of a lot of Pakistanis, when they start in the UK market, they started from healthcare and sports category. So yeah,
Yep.
that's a great category to start with, especially in
Yeah.
pandemic. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting category, and I think as consumer trends change and their needs change,
yeah,
and I shop a lot in these categories, and I see a lot of new brands that have
yeah,
gone from D2C onto
nice,
Amazon, and then you see them in the retail store. So the great thing is you're starting to see
yeah,
Amazon just become more and more part of their strategy. Now, the long term impact will be is if they haven't sorted out their pricing and their
yeah,
distribution strategy, then they're going to have some challenges with the Amazon
yeah.
data further down the line. But I think I think it's just a growing marketplace in the UK in general. So I follow that with interest.
Yeah, that's a great market as well. And also, I now have one question in the European market side, in the East European region, or in the the places that have the countries that have not gotten Amazon yet. Which one do you think is the most interesting one to grow in? So we know Germany, like Germany is obviously established one, but yeah, the new ones that were rumored to start in yeah,
Well, who have we got that's rumored? So I think Belgium's been has started. Has Turkey launched yet? I know Amazon were talking about it. I think Turkey's available, but they don't yet that group that
yeah,
as part of their kind. When they talk about Amazon, they in Pan EU they normally go EU5 or maybe EU8. So I think that's quite interesting. Um, I think with I mean, I remember trying to launch products onto Amazon Sweden and going through that launch, and it Amazon in some of those other regions, particularly where there are other e-commerce players who already have a footfall. So if you think
yeah,
bol.com in Netherlands, and you think Allegro in Poland,
yeah,
etc. So they Amazon have gone in and I think they're doing a good job, but those other e-commerce marketplaces have got a real stranglehold on that market, so it becomes a bit more difficult. So I think the yes, it's interesting as Amazon start to get more footprint, but there's
yeah,
still so much more to do
Yeah.
in the existing regions to make sure that they take advantage of the opportunities are there. Like take Spain, for example. Spain is a huge opportunity. I think the Spanish market are really, they love traditional retail. It's really
Yeah.
big. That e-commerce marketplace, I think, has a real potential in that region to continue to really boom and grow. So yeah, I think there are opportunities, of course, and they'll
Yeah.
start to extend their footprint. And I work with brands in Australia. I've worked as a vendor in Poland and Sweden
Nice.
and Turkey, and it's a lot of effort for very little reward in terms of
Yeah.
performance. And you now, and it will grow over time, don't get me wrong, so you need to be
Yeah.
there and be visible. But I think there is as Amazon launched new marketplaces, I don't think I would be going, oh, I definitely want to be in there as
Yeah.
soon as you open. I'll probably wait and see how they do it and see
Yeah.
how it launches and see how it goes, because I'd want to be putting effort into the existing regions where I know they've already got that kind of footprint and that
Yeah.
distribution network, and they're able to really ramp up performance. If I was looking to drive, quicker sales and visibility.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and yeah, and we also have Australian marketplace, but we don't advertise there. Even for some of the European marketplaces, we stopped advertising there and selling there as well, because it just wasn't fruitful. So yeah, a lot of effort for very less reward. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's it. It's I mean, it's nice when you have an opportunity to put your brand in front of other people in different
Yeah,
marketplaces. But if how they find the product and the amount of products, or actually that they don't know that the products are there,
yeah,
then actually it's a lot of effort for, as you say, very little return. And if we go somewhere like the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, people are using Amazon
yeah,
and engaging in the product, so you'll get a bigger return
yeah.
from those areas.
Yep, that's right. So I have one more question that stems from your earlier answer. That is, you were on DSP before it was called DSP, right?
It was AMG, yes.
Nice, nice. So how do you see that shift from from there to in 2023 we are seeing more of TikTok kind of stuff happening, and also what I am seeing in Amazon space is that a little bit more casual graphics are coming in, the some images and stuff like that. How do you see that going forward, because you are the one person who has experienced it, the e-commerce in when it was
Yeah.
starting out, and now how do you see that changing in 2025? Yeah.
2025. So it's look, I mean, Amazon will continue to bring in more ad locations in their search terms. I mean,
Yeah.
even now when you look at it category by category, it could be 55-60% of above the
Yeah.
fold locations are paid locations. So
Yeah.
it's a very profitable revenue stream for Amazon now. So that is going to keep developing. I think we've got the recent announcement of being charged more on the Prime membership
Yeah.
in the UK and some other regions as well. If you want to have ads removed from your Prime TV, so more and more spaces are being opened up. So I think what will happen over the next couple of years is more and more that video um, ad placements and that video content will become
Yeah.
much more important. If you think about TikTok, you're scrolling through, you see the video, and you can
Yeah.
go and shop the product. It's very
Yeah.
seamless and easy. I think Amazon will be really keen to make sure that they've got more video that's visible on site to be
Yeah.
able to drive that conversion. With DSP, I mean, I used DSP personally myself many years ago, but then as an
Yeah.
agency, I was talking to brands about DSP, and in the absence of traffic or declining traffic year on year or more competitive marketplaces, the opportunity to use DSP to retarget either lapsed consumers or missed consumers or consumers who are engaging in competitor products is massive. You can start to
Yeah.
be really targeted, and I quite often look back on my time as a vendor when I engaged
yeah,
in DSP, because I just went, it's really expensive and I can't
yeah,
tell what it's done. Therefore, I'm really annoyed and I'm probably not going to
yeah,
run it again. Whereas
yeah,
actually now there are so many agencies out there where you can run it with a smaller budget.
yeah,
You can have a really targeted approach, whether it's focusing on new to brand, whether it's focusing on conversion rate, whether it's focusing on just remarketing to missed views on your products, and or actually driving awareness of your brand. I
yeah,
think this is one of the other things as well, is Amazon um, ha, has, but still is to a degree, seen as a transactional website. I put my product on there, I get some sales. The brands that are now going, actually, I can use Amazon to create a brand, to
yeah,
launch my
yeah,
brand. And that's one of the great things as well about Amazon, is just because you're number one in the market doesn't mean you're number one on Amazon.
yeah,
So, and that I think is a really fascinating kind of place to be in. So I think I think this whole remarketing and being really clever with your ad investment to make sure that you're showing your ads to the right people at the
yeah,
right time, either to build your brand or to drive that sale before they come into the category and reshop from scratch. I think that's going to be a bit of a game changer for brands over the next 12 to 24 months, because they, you know, I was talking to a brand. Oh God, it feels like it was months ago now, but there was a lot of questions around. We're not sure whether we should go on Amazon or not, and it's really simple. Your consumers are already on Amazon and
yeah,
they're already buying your competitor products. So why would you not want to be on there? And
yeah,
then when you're on there, why would you not want to show them more of your products? Why would you not
yeah,
want to engage them in your brand? So you've even got things like brand story, the A plus premium, all of this. I mean, if you go back 10 years ago, trying to get content on an e-tail website outside of Amazon, I mean, it felt like it took ages.
yeah,
Now with Amazon, you're in control of that. So
yeah,
I think that advertising space will continue to drive energy and momentum into Amazon. Unfortunately, the downside for vendors and sellers, it will become more expensive,
yeah,
um, because there's more people there. But it's there's in the UK alone, there's 45 million unique visits a month. If it costs me 60p a click, 70p a click, why not? I
yeah,
want to make sure I get in front of the right consumers and drive performance. So I think it will be more of the same in that space, but it will
yeah.
be ramped up and probably towards that video and that remarketing element.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I have one clickbait question. That's a last question, but it's a clickbait one. And the question is basically, how do you see the course sellers in Amazon space? Because you every day you open your app, or anywhere, even you open Facebook, or even if you look anywhere, there are thousand Amazon course sellers who are trying to teach Amazon. And back in your time, nothing was there when you started it out. So how do you see that shift? And more and more people are coming into this industry. And yeah,
As in, how do I see it from a
senior perspective. Yeah,
as
because
in
Amazon. Yeah,
the number of sellers, or what do I think will happen over time?
over time. Yeah, over time.
In terms of the number of sellers on there, or the people in the space.
People in the
um
space.
yeah, so look, I think
Every day you
I,
open your LinkedIn, you see a person who has driven 25 million in growth. So yeah, that's my
yeah,
question actually.
it's a yeah, I mean, it's I think there will be more people. People have experience, and when you're selling on Amazon, everyone pulls out their own personal take on what worked for them, and that, yes, there are kind of the basic things you need to do, but everybody I meet has a story of, oh, I did this and it drove that and this was
Yeah,
really exciting. And so I kind of like the fact that there's lots of different
yeah,
perspectives, and I particularly like on LinkedIn that it's people are sharing that.
Yeah.
and challenging and going, well, hold on a second, how does that work, and how did you
Yeah.
do that? And it feels much more open. If you go back 10 years ago, LinkedIn was a you put yourself on there just in case there was a recruiter wanting
Yeah.
to offer you a job at any
Yeah.
point. Whereas now it feels like it's much more of a learning platform,
Yeah.
and I think Amazon, everyone who is engaged in the Amazon space is learning day in,
Yeah.
day out. So there's so
Yeah.
much to share, and also what I particularly enjoy is that you kind of, I think there are three camp. There's
Yeah.
four camps in the Amazon kind of expert space. You've got your seller expert, you've got your vendor expert, you've
Yeah.
got your hybrid expert who sits
Yeah.
in the middle,
Yeah.
and then you've got your advertising experts.
Yeah.
So you've and quite often those four areas will have a very different view
Yeah.
on what good looks like, and the real magic happens when
Yeah.
they all come together and go,
Yeah.
oh, hold on, what about this? So I personally, I really enjoy that. I've spoken to people who have been in the industry or within the Amazon space for many years, and then I enjoy talking to them, and then I talk to people who've been working on Amazon for 2 years, and
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by their journey and their energy and their passion for
Yeah.
Amazon, and I think that for me that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
I when I launched Vendor Rocket, I've come with a load of experience, and I've been through the pan EU
Yeah.
expansion. I've negotiated terms and cost price increases, and I've had to try and figure out how to get a product top of search. And
Yeah.
I've written content, I've run advertising, and for as many things I've done. I think I've done that really well. I could
Yeah.
give you twice as many areas where I made an absolute mess of it,
Yeah.
but I
And
think that's the great thing, because you go, well, I've been through this journey, and I can celebrate the wins, and I've been through those pain points, but I've also learned a load of stuff
yeah.
of don't do it like that, or actually try that, or do this, or go that
Yeah.
way. So I hope it continues, and
Yeah.
the more people in this space that have a view and that challenge. I've been delighted actually by the Amazon community. It's very supportive, so I'm really proud and pleased to be part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome take, to be very honest. And yeah, we all learn from each other. And even now, I speak to people who are doing it for 7, 8 months, and they often have insights that blow my mind as well, because everyone has and every category and every subcategory and every product behaves differently, and it's just awesome. And I
Yeah,
really love the point that LinkedIn is a learning platform now, instead of recruiting platform.
I think it is. Yeah, it definitely, and I've really tried to lean in on LinkedIn, because I
Yeah.
see it as a tool to understand what other people are
Yeah.
doing, but also just to, yeah, I mean, the amount of people that message me and go, love to connect, to
Yeah.
understand and share experiences, and as you
Yeah.
say, people who have been in the industry, or on Amazon for a couple of
Yeah.
months, they will have their own experience, their
Yeah.
own learning, and yeah, it's important. I think
Yeah.
it's very important to make sure that's kind of understood and heard, and shared. I think there's some great stuff, great content that's going around on Amazon and on LinkedIn at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really, really enjoyed the conversation. So, do you have any closing remarks?
No, other than to thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been great. It's the Amazon space is really exciting for many people. Really enjoyed your energy and your questions, because they're good questions and points to consider, and they will have multiple views from multiple people. So no, thanks for having me, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.